Wow, that's a long class period.
Okay.
All of them are long.
All right. So, real quick, goal today. I want to do our book checkouts, get those. Some people have shared a link with me about an online version. So, if you guys want to share that with each other, that's
illegal.
I can't share that because that would be illegal.
Will you write it on the board but not share it with us?
No.
Turn the camera off for
I'll
us.
share it with
Try it on the
All right.
cell.
Okay. So,
I already turned it off.
I'm going to get you a hard copy today. Now, pre-warning about these hard copies. Again, they're fragile because they're 5-6 years old. They're super big and weighty. If you throw them in your locker, they'll crack. There's already a couple pages that will be loose. It's understandable that happens. So just keep them in there as best you can. I'll try to get you the best books I can, but if you know you're missing a chapter, then we'll get you a different book. That's just kind of how it works. Question?
Do we need the paper sack?
I don't mind if you use like the little like sock thing, if you use like a newspaper, if you use the Hy-Vee Family Foods bag, I don't really care. Just some type of book cover on it. Book cover is your first assignment this week. It's due on Thursday. It's 10 points, it's all or nothing. Get that on there. Yeah, so that's Thursday, but goal today is to get your book, get the book number. They're individually numbered. Now, if you happen to grab a book that does not have a number in it, I'll ask you to make up one that's 5 digits long. So that's just kind of how it works. But it's got to be 5 digits.
That's
So.
4, 6, 9.
All right.
0.69.
Okay. So we'll get started here in a second. Remember, we're out of here at 10:35, so keep track of that, and you got period 4 next as normal. So let me get rid of this. Okay. Let me get rid of the projector. We're not going to do that for right now. All right. After we're done with this, then we'll do a couple housekeeping things, and then we'll get started. I'm going to start the camera because the camera doesn't need to hear us go through book numbers. We'll do that here in a second.
I didn't see disc assignments.
All right.
Wait, so this was made by a professor?
Yeah. Yep. So it's really well done. All right. Now the goal today is to get a sense for how this book works. So if you're on the page, it's not XI, but I guess it's Roman numeral 7 VII. Okay, go back a few pages. Sorry, I told you the wrong thing. VII. It's the first couple pages. This is the table of contents. It tells you kind of like the chapters were covered. Now remember, I don't go in order. I'm not going chapter 1, every section, or chapter P, every section, chapter 1, every section. I don't do that. We bounce around quite a bit. There's some days we'll be in chapter P. The next chapter we suddenly move to is chapter 9. Then we're back to chapter 3. Then we're to chapter 4. And I go on a kind of a method where everything kind of progresses and they all connect together. These are just broken up by topic. We will start in chapter P. That's prerequisites. It's all of Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2 mixed into one chapter. So if you look at what page P1 starts at. 2, and where does the chapter, or P.9 start with? 114, right? If you're looking at the table of contents. That is insane. That's 100 pages to cover everything from Algebra 1 to Algebra 2. And we have to cover it in about a week or 2. So, because I want to get us to that point where we're all on the same page. Now you're thinking, holy gosh, what have I got myself into? It's easy. I spoon feed you as much as possible to the point where you're like, okay, I can handle this. This is pretty straightforward. We will have homework. So here's what I'd like you to do. Go to page 2. Like literally the number 2, not a Roman, but a number 2. Okay, we're going to start with the first section. The goal right now is just to get a sense for how this book is laid out, how you can read it. Because the most trouble in math is not just I don't understand the concept. It's like you can't even go back to the book and figure out, okay, what are we even doing? Like, can I even read what the book is telling me? Because some people aren't comfortable with the chapters, how they're laid out, how you're supposed to look at a textbook and get a sense for, okay, this is how I need to do it, this is what I need to look at. Are you missing a chapter 1?
I have 65 as my first number.
Yeah, so I need to get you a new textbook. I knew there was one. There's always that one book that didn't have chapter 1. If you just happen to have it, let's put that off to the side. Don't throw it away, just put it off to the side. I probably know
It's
it.
personal. There's no way.
Okay, I'm going to hand you another book.
Bash my head against this thing.
Make sure it has chapter 1 in it, and then we'll get that number. Okay? I wanted that book later, so don't hand that out to anyone. I think I know where chapter 1 is.
Just pass it around. Do a exchange it with your book.
These days, guys. How many calories do you burn bashing your head against the wall for an hour?
Okay.
What did you say? Something.
Okay.
A lot.
Hey. Okay. Are you on page 2?
Yep.
Okay, look at the little pill at the top. It says section P.1 in green and blue.
Chris Farley.
If you're colorblind, sorry, it's in that green and blue pill. It says algebraic expression next to it. That's the title. That's the title of the section we're in.
Computer like this.
Shh. So we're in the title of that section. Below it, every major topic in that section will be highlighted in blue, bold letters like algebraic expressions. You go to the next page. It says evaluating algebraic expressions. Those are titles of the subsections that are in it. Examples will be in the green pill. It says example number 1. It's got a pretty nice way of explaining it. Now, here's what I found out about this textbook. The stuff in the little margins, like the stuff that's printed here, or right behind the examples, is actually insanely important. There's actually been like major things you're supposed to read, but it's here and not in the main paragraphs. So I'll try to highlight as much as possible. I do expect, and I know this is different from geometry days and whatnot, I do expect you to glance through this section when we're in it. So if we're in section P1, I do expect you to flip through it at some point when you're bored, so that you get a sense, okay, what are we supposed to cover? You don't have to read it word for word, just okay, here's the topics. You kind of glance through it and I have no idea what this topic is. That's a great question during class. Okay, when we get to it, that's something you should focus on. You're supposed to do that in other textbooks, but this one in particular, the reason why is we cover so many topics that maybe there's something that eluded you that we need to go back and cover. Okay? All right. So here's what I'd like you to do. This is kind of a little challenge. I want you to flip a few pages and find section 2, P.2. Flip a few pages. Go find P.2 and stop when you find it and raise your hand. Let's see the first person I can find.
Is it page 65?
No. Okay. Starting to find it.
I have first, alright.
Yeah.
19, y'all.
19. Page 19.
Why does it keep saying chapter P?
No, it says section P.2.
Here's chapter 1.
Scientific notation.
Is that what you wanted?
No.
Objectives.
The second section of chapter P. Yeah.
Page 19.
That's the difference between this book and other textbooks. If you go to page 19, the middle of the section, section 2, P.2, that's on page 19. It is literally in the middle of page 19, if you can see it there. They waste no space. When that first section is done, they're starting P2. It could be at the bottom of a page, the last note, it might say the title of the section, and the next page just continues that section. They waste no room. It's not like those geometry books where they put a nice pretty picture and then section 2 is on the next page. This author wastes no space. If you notice, so you're at page 19, right? Go back 2 pages, so go back to page 16.
I think that's a high school student's nightmare.
Okay, actually, page 15, go to 15. Page 15. 15 at the bottom. It says exercises, set P1, right? There's probably a picture of some people sitting on a bench with a dog.
P9.
Some books have the dog peeing on the gentleman, some don't. It's really weird.
Isn't that a service dog?
So, yeah, I'm not joking. You can look at the pictures. Every book in here is different for pictures. They have the same topic, but some of the books are borderline inappropriate with their pictures. And it's completely random.
Perfect.
The dog is peeing on it. Now, that will continue the theme throughout the entire chapter. It's totally random. They're all the same book. They have all the exact same problems. Just the pictures are subtly different, and you wouldn't know it because they look the same from a glance. But notice at the bottom of page 15, the problems start there, and if you keep continuing to flip to page 19, they continue and continue. Right? It goes all the way to page 19, where then the problems stop at what? 162, and then it goes right to the next section. There's 162 problems in that section alone. That continues every single section. There was one section in this book that had 250 some problems. I don't assign all those. I don't do that. You guys know the drill. I pick a few problems here and there. I'm when you guys, if you've ever been in my room previously and you've seen, when I put PreCalculus assignment up there, it looks huge and menacing compared to everyone else's, because there's 250 problems I have to pick from. I pick problems here and there, and so their 20 problems they had that day will be scattered across the board because I had to pick, okay, problem number 2, problem number 14, problem number 56, problem number 61.
I'm reading the wrong one.
So it was one of those things I have to like pick and choose the problems I want you to kind of show me that you know how to do or you need some practice on. So I don't assign everything. My calc professor in college, in Calc 1, signed every single problem, 1 to 162.
And how long did you have to do it?
It was due on Fridays. But the thing is, that would be a Monday, right? Section 1. We do Section 1 Monday. He assigns 1 through 162. No joke. I'm not lying to you. 162 problems. Tuesday, we do Section 2, all those problems as well. Due Friday. They're on the back of that assignment. Wednesday, Section 3. Those 150 problems. By Friday, we had the 5th section. Those problems are due the next week because we already had to submit our answers. We had to fax it over there. So you had to fax those 4 sections of homework problems to my professor in the morning at 7:30 in the morning so he could check them. And then that problem we got Friday, we're
So
due the next
700
week.
and something problems were all due by Friday.
By Friday. I had like, and I was working full time. I was working 32 hours a week and I was in sports as well. So when I was at work, I was doing homework constantly. Like, I'm not lying. Like, I would spend 2 to 3 hours a night doing calc homework. So by 7:30 the next morning, I was hopefully done with them.
Where'd you work at?
Movie time video clearly. So I could just watch a movie. No one ever came in. I just watched movies and did homework the whole time. It was awesome. But it was one of those things, like, I spent so much time doing that homework that I was better at the math, but it was just ridiculous. Like, and the worst part was, the professor didn't check every problem, picked like 4.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
And you can't like not do all of them because you don't know which 4 they're picking. So you had to do them. And so we got really good at groups where we just work together and get those problems out because 700 problems a week.
Cheated.
You had a game that night, how are you gonna do those problems?
What sports were you in college?
Not college, but high school, because I took Calc 1 in high school.
Oh.
So that was my senior year of high school. I took it with pre-calc at the same time.
That's terrible.
That's what Venture offered.
That is
So-
terrorism.
So if I had cross country, because that's what I was in. So I go up after practice, practice that day. I go to practice till 5:30, go to work until close at 10, and I just do homework until then. Go home, next day maybe we had a meet, so I do homework in the like right after school till 4 or 5, whatever time we left. Go run, come back, do more homework. And that was every day. But I don't do that to you. This is the idea, like, this is made for a college level book. You can see it. Like, it reminds me of my first Calc 1 book, the way it's put out. Now, keep flipping those pages. You can kind of get a glimpse for how the sections work. They're all kind of laid out the same. They got green pills for examples. They got blue headings. They got homework problems that go on for days.
Purple study tips.
Yep, there's exercises. There's a lot of story problems. I don't assign a lot of them. I assign 1 or 2, maybe. I'm more of the, like, I want to see kind of what you know that day. There's some days we'll do a couple. Yeah, so there's some weird stuff in there. But, excuse me. But here's the thing I want you to get. It just doesn't stop. There's never a point where there's just a huge blank page with maybe a picture. Everything is for a purpose. There's some homework problem that's based on that picture. There's something. Okay? He wastes no space. So it can be daunting. The reason why I had you flip through this right away is because I want you to get a sense for how the author is forming his chapters, his sections. Because when I first opened this book, when I got it 4 or 5 years ago when I started teaching pre-calc, I was doing the same thing you were. I was kind of flipping through the book when I first got it. I was like, okay, what am I getting myself into? And I honestly, for the life of me, for the first half an hour, I couldn't even find the second section. Like, P.2, I was flipping, I was like, I got to page 65 with you, and I'm like, I'm at chapter 1. Like, where was the second section in? I thought I was missing pages, but flip back, and yeah, he just doesn't waste time, because I'm so used to like a geometry book or an algebra 1 book, where they waste space, and there's pretty pictures, and there's very distinct cutouts where the second section starts. But it's one of those things, like, once you get a sense for it, it's kind of nice. It's progressive.
Did it bring up some PTSD from Calc 1?
No, it didn't.
I
But
found some wasted space here.
Oh.
that's the first. Is that the end of the chapter?
Look at this.
Ooh.
Look at this. Holy fucking.
Whoa.
That's the back. That's the last page. All right. Now, in the back, just to get a sense for it. In the back of the book, if you flip back to it, the 400s, whatever, or 1400s, whatever those pages are in the back, I think they're highlighted. They're AAA or AA numbers. If you flip to the back, the binder's covered in black. You can see it from the edge of the book. Those are the answer keys. Some books have it, some books don't. It's just whether the pages fell out or not. They're only odds. Usually the back only has odds in it. They don't have every problem. I will usually assign equal numbers of odds and evens. I'm not that person that just goes evens. I don't do that because I do like to check my answers too. And this is where, like websites like Slater and stuff can be helpful. I know I'm not an idiot about that. Like, it is nice to check your answer every now and then. Like, am I even doing this remotely correct? Go on to Slater, check out that problem, go, okay, yeah, I did it. But here's the problem. Slater is set up by some kid in college that took these courses.
And is
They
a
do it.
millionaire.
Yeah, I think they do pretty well because they have a payment plan on that website. But here's the problem. They do it completely different than the style I teach it in sometimes. Like, the problem is done completely different. I've found a few problems where they're done wrong. Like, they just didn't catch it. They've done it wrong. They didn't read the question all the way through. So, just be careful, especially the back. Like, this book does pretty good. There is a couple problems that are wrong every now and then, where it was just somebody was typing too fast, I think, and you could see the answer was there, but they typed too many numbers by accident. So, just be careful of that. Don't think it's the end-all, be-all answer. It could be you did it right. I always do make an answer key like I've done in previous years, where I have literally like a notebook up here that has every problem that I've assigned that I do myself with you. Because I do that every day. If I send it to you, I'm doing it because it's my answer key. And I do check every problem. I'm not that person that checks 4 problems or 2. I do check every single problem I assign. It takes hours. I do it. So, keep that in mind, that you do have to do the work, and it's due on certain days. Okay, question real quick.
Do you ever do it wrong?
Me? Oh, I'm sure I've made a mistake here. I'm human. I'm sure I've had it before.
Do you do more problems now or your Algebra 1 deal?
For what?
Like, you said you gotta do every problem for every class you assign, so
Yeah.
do you do more problems now or when you were a senior or whatever?
Oh, I'm sure that I did more when I was a senior, just because of the level of homework that I did. But now it's just like, if I assign my 15 problems, it's pretty easy. Like, after I've checked 5 or 6 people, I pretty much have them memorized. I can just flip through really fast, I can see the answers. The thing that I do want to check for is I do want to see work. So when I assign something, I do want to see all the work that you're doing. Don't just put an answer like, oh, I can do it in my head. Yeah, great. I trust you could probably do it in your head. Some of these problems are insanely simple, but I do want to see your work for the most part. So if there's a couple steps you have to do, write those couple steps down. Because that's something, I want to see where your logic is going. Because if you do it wrong, how do I know where you went wrong? Because it does happen. So do show as much work as possible. Not like every line that's stupid, but there's a few lines of work. Show those few lines of work that maybe you had to like take a step back, you have to do some different calculations. You should be writing down what you're doing. Okay? But don't tell me that you can do everything in your head, because there's some that you can't. Like, you actually break things down. I know there's certain calculators out there that will do a lot of these problems for you automatically. Like, that's great to check and answer, but I do want to see your work and how you're doing it personally. So keep that in mind. All right, let's go back to page 2, I believe. Let's go back to there. Okay, we're going to start today by talking about the section what we're in. This is the prerequisite chapter. I said we're going to do this for about a week or 2. I think last year took about a week and a half. I might go 2, I don't know. We're starting on a Monday, so it's kind of nice. So I don't know the timing that will be involved here. But I want to start today. I want to start with the topic covering, because we're starting with Algebra 1 here. You can see that. Starting with algebra stuff. We're going to eventually work our way to some geometry in these next couple sections. And then we'll get to Algebra 2 in like the 3rd or 4th section. So like, it goes quick, and we're covering a ton of different topics. The number one thing I always catch people every year on is that they didn't pay attention the first couple days, because they're like, that's algebra. And then they realize by the 3rd chapter we're in, or 2nd chapter we're in this book, like we're full on chapters, or how did we factor again? Like, what were the terms of factor? Because you didn't pay attention that day. Like, you do need the stuff covering to make sure that you can actually handle the problems they're getting later. There's a rhyme or reason. Like, if there was no point in doing chapter 0, or P, I'd just skip it. But we do have cover stuff, like things you do need to know how to do. So keep that in mind. So, all right, get out your notes. You can close your book. You don't really need it. Some people like to have the book out. All right, take out your notes. Let's go through some stuff.
Already?
All right, so we're gonna start this off the camera here. We're out of here in about 10 minutes.
Notes required.
Notes? Yes. Hey, good, great question. Cole just asked, are notes required? Yes. It's not an option in this room. We cover, what is this, 19 pages of work before we get to the second section. There is From the count that I saw today, there's a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different sections of Algebra 1 that we're going to cover today. Not in 10 minutes, but you're getting the idea. Like, these are 6 major chapters of Algebra 1 that you're about to get in about 5 to 10 minutes. So, we need to make sure that you are paying attention, you're writing these notes down. There's certain things I want you to know that I'll highlight. No, in this, pre-calc, I don't do vocabulary tests or anything like that, so just alleviate your stress there. A lot of the tests are just basic problems you're supposed to be able to handle in pre-calc, so use standards, dial for, figure out what you need to be tested on. So just keep that in mind. But let's start with the first section. So if you look at, if you were in the book, we talked about algebraic expressions. That is the main topic of this chapter, right? Algebraic expressions. Now, the big topic here is an expression. There's 2 different types of expressions I want you to know. So there's algebraic itself, which is the title of the section, and then there's numerical, which are one and the same. Numerical is just, a numerical expression just has numbers, as opposed to algebraic that has variables in it. It has x's, it has y's. They're the same style, right? They're still expressions. There's even another one, there's exponential. I consider exponential to be one of the other 2 types, right? It's either numerical or it's algebraic. But it's still an expression. Now, expressions of that type, we simplify them. Okay? We simplify. We don't really solve. You work it down to a point where you can't go any further, right? It boggles my mind when I see people get an expression for the first time. Something like this, where it's like 3x plus 15 plus 1x plus 1. And no joke, I've had this in previous years. I give them that problem, they kind of work it through. Most people can do it in their head because they just do all these steps really fast. But then I get that one person, shows me no work, and no joke, this is the answer I get. How in the hell did you get 4? There's no equal sign. Like, what are you doing? I understand what they did, but I'm like, how did you get 4? Like, that makes no sense to me. At no point did they ask for what x is. So, what are you doing there, right? You're just supposed to simplify. Just add the variables together, right? So, most people do this in their head. They just kind of group things together. They're not, like, the real math is you're supposed to move it. I don't really care for that, but whatever. They say, okay, this is 4x, and then they do the 15 and the 1, and they make 16. That's your answer. Like, that's where you stop. Like, you've simplified it about as far as you can go. Now, obviously the steps I'm skipping there is I'm skipping commutative, where you move things around. Commuting is to move. And obviously you're simplifying by adding, right? But that's it, done. That's like the finish, right? There's not a lot of work you need to do there. So like on a homework problem, yeah, I'd probably expect you probably just do that like that. But if it was like way longer and there's parentheses and other things, yeah, you probably need to write maybe a step or 2. But like that, I can understand. But here's the thing. Do you see where the person could get 4? Where they suddenly throw in an equal sign in there, or they get a -4 or whatever. I've seen everything. But remember, if we're in a section about expressions, you're just simplifying. You're not solving for something. Now what type is that out of these 3? It's algebraic, right? It's got variables, it's got numbers in it, so it's algebraic. It's got variables and numbers. Now variable is an unknown, we don't know it, it can stand for any number. It's just an unknown, right? That's algebraic. Now numerical is just where there's digits everywhere. Now there's a rhyme or reason why you'd ever want to do something like that. So maybe it's like 6 times 7 times 5 times 2, right? There might be a rhyme or reason to why you want to move things around. Like maybe you want to move things, maybe you don't. Like to me, I like to leave the 5 and 2 together. It makes 10. And then this makes 42. So your total answer is 420, right? So the idea is like, there is a time and reason why you would ever want to move and commute stuff. Maybe you didn't see that problem that way. Maybe you saw the 5 times 6 was 30. And then you saw, so 5 times 6 is 30. You saw that 7 times 2 is 14. And then you got down to that same answer. Like that. Because you could do 3 times 14 and put a 0 on it. there's different ways of doing the problem, but that's numerical. Now, with all these problems, what do you need to do to be able to solve that correctly, though? Or to simplify, I shouldn't say solve, but to simplify. What major concept in math do you need?
Multiplication.
Multiplication, you gotta know multiplication, I agree with that. What else? What if I give you this problem?
PEMDAS.
Aha, say it. Say it again.
I just said.
Say it.
16.
Okay. It's 16, PEMDAS, right? This little acronym that you're saying is the order of operations. You have to know. You'll get it wrong. Like, there's some people that go, okay, 6 plus 2, that's 8, and then they're going to take it times 5 and say 40 when it's not 40. It should be 16, right? Because the order of operations says you got to do parentheses first, then exponents, then you either multiply or divide. It doesn't matter, those go interchangeable. So we just say PEMDAS because it sounds better, but you can switch the D and M around. They're multiplication and division are the same operations. That's why you can switch them, they're the same. So you'd have to go, this is 10 first, you have to do multiplication, division first, and then you can add and subtract later, and these are the same operation. Adding and subtracting are the same, you can interchange them.
Sad note.
So, no, that's different. No, going completely backwards, that's the way to go.
That's the way.
So,
Sad note, sad note.
okay, so, but it's one of those things like, some people like forget that. It's just like one of those things like, it's so simple, but it's one of those concepts where we have to stick with that. Anytime, no matter if we're in chapter P, or in chapter 11 or 12, whatever the last chapter of this book is, you do need to use PEMDAS on expressions, every single time. It doesn't matter, because I get people in chapter 9 that they'll start getting simple problems wrong again. And I'm like, what did you get this wrong for? Like, that isn't even a really hard problem. They forgot that in chapter 1 we talked about this. They're like, oh God, I multiplied. I was just going straight left to right. I didn't even think about it. There is a rhyme or reason you have to do that, so everyone guarantees the same answer. Okay, now, those are expressions. Now, the one thing that I've already heard is that there's exponent, or there's equations, right? There's algebraic equations. An equation you actually have to solve. That's where you have to, find x or find y or whatever the variable is. This process, when you get an equation, now you have to do, what I heard earlier was SADMAT. Where you have to go through the order backwards. If you're solving for x.
Yeah, I do that.
So, if I gave you a problem like this,
I thought you were just making that up.
Yeah.
if I gave you that problem, you have to go through it backwards, right? On this problem, you have to start with subtraction or adding first. So I want to add and subtract that number first. Get the x by itself. So I'm going to have to subtract it. That's why it's called SADMAT. I'm subtracting first. So that gets me to 3x equals 15. Then, now that I'm done with adding and subtracting, now I want to multiply and divide. So I'm going to divide. I'm going to divide by 3. To get x is 5. Right? That's the order. Now, obviously, if there's more complicated things going on, you'll have to kind of think outside the box. There's lots of parentheses. You have to kind of do one step at a time. You might actually have to go out of order sometimes, depending on like how much stuff is there and what you need to do. There's little things that, I could change the problem up where I could just make a subtle change where you may not add and subtract first, you might have to do exponents first. And that's the thing like later on that, how do you know? You have to look at the problem and see kind of how they group it together.
You just kind of full send it.
Yeah. So, all right, now.
From the voice.
Now, from our first section here, now this is just one topic. Now I got about 3 or 4 minutes here. I'm not even. So, all right. Tomorrow, bring your textbook, bring notes, bring your calculators if you've forgotten one at home. We're probably going to get an assignment tomorrow. So keep that in mind. We're probably getting our first book assignment. Hey, period 4 is next. Period 4.
Oh, I love this. I don't know what class I have.
3 4 minutes.